I want to start this video off with saying that Destiny isn't dead. Now, I don't normally do videos like these, so with everything going on in the Destiny community, I kind of wanted to throw my opinion out there, mainly based on the brand new state of the game we just received. And to set the record, I want to say I'm not being paid by Bungie. I've never been to a preview event for them. I've never even received a gift from them. This is just coming from someone who has played Destiny for 8 years, has seen probably almost 10,000 hours in all the games combined together, and even having every single weapon crafted, with almost half of them having enhanced perks. I've been around this game for a long time. I've seen its ups and downs throughout all those years, and it's sad to see that we are in another one of those droughts. And pretty much this entire season and some of Lightfall has just been completely negative for almost the entire time. And while I think a little bit is an overreaction, I think some is definitely warranted. So these are just going to be my thoughts and opinions on everything, specifically with the state of the game post, and let's just jump right into it. So jumping right into it, we have the brand new state of the game, and I'm not going to read over everything because I'm sure most of you have all read it. You're just probably coming to me for reactions, thoughts, or anything of the sort. So just kind of going to skim through it and give my opinions on everything as we go. But for this main first part, they're mainly just talking about final shape. Joe Blackburn, or just the game director, are basically saying that they're all heads down working on the final shape. They're excited that we're excited about K6 coming back. They have a lot more to show us on the August 22nd reveal, so really excited for that. This is pretty acceptable in my opinion. Obviously, they're a company trying to make money. They're going to hype up their brand new DLC, get us excited for the showcase. I think this is okay. Obviously, they're not going to not include this in the state of the game. But as we go down lower, we get to the main parts of this, and that's addressing feedback. They basically just say that they've been tracking feedback, and obviously they've implemented some changes. They're going to talk about some stuff in the state of the game, and the first big one is going to be ritual updates. Now, everybody has been complaining that the ritual activities, things like strikes, crucible, and gambit, are just beyond boring to play. Honestly, they're not that rewarding. They're very repetitive, and they've been that way for a while. So they want to try to address that with some changes, and one major way they're going to change that is when you get those powerful gear or exotic engrams now, you can now actually just choose what specific activity you want to play. You don't have to do your 3 crucible matches, your 3 gambit matches, or the points and strikes. You can literally just do one of those and you will be able to receive all of them. So that's cool. So if you don't like playing gambit, you don't have to play Gambit, and if you're just a Crucible player, you can get all your rewards just from playing Crucible. I think that is a great change, because I know obviously there's PvE players, PvP players, and then there are a couple people that enjoy Gambit and they can just mainly play Gambit to get those rewards. I overall think this is a good quality of life change, and I don't think it's gonna drastically affect the ritual activities in any way other than just you can get your rewards easier. Like, it's not gonna make people want to play it more, other than maybe just to get those exotics each week and whatever activity they like to play. Another thing they're going to be doing is also increasing the drop rates of engrams after doing the ritual activities, and every single weapon from the current season will be able to be focused at the respective vendors. So if you are going for a specific weapon, it will be a whole lot easier to try to farm it, and I think that can add a little bit of replayability if you don't have something like a good Riptide. Obviously, you can now play a lot of Crucible, get a pretty sizable amount of engrams a lot faster, and then obviously go try to get your God or Riptide. And they're also adding a weapon in these loot pools as well, just like they do with every season. So maybe some of them will have God rolls, and you can start specifically focusing on farming those weapons. But the problem is with those weapons, they typically aren't better than what other stuff is in the game. But if there is some sleeper picks like Riptide, which is one of the best PvE weapons in the game, this will be a little bit better for that. So overall, with the rewards, I think these are some great changes. I still don't think it's gonna make the playlist super fun to play unless there is some extremely broken weapon that comes from a ritual activity. I can imagine seeing a lot of people farm it and then trying to focus it. I mean, there is going to be a stasis submachine gun in Crucible, so that's a 900 RPM. I'd imagine that might have some pretty good PvE perks on it, or even PvP, so we'll just have to wait and see. But now moving on down, we're going to get into the specific playlists, Crucible, Vanguard, Gambit, and talk about everything that they're kind of doing with this. So we are going to be receiving a brand new Crucible map, which is obviously pretty cool, but a lot of the stuff they write about is the bad part. So just as a quick rundown of the PvP map, though, this is going to be based in the Vex network. Pretty sure they said it's in the Infinite Forest, which is pretty cool. I'm really hoping this is just not a reskin like the brand new map was when Witch Queen came out, which is pretty much a reskin of the map I cannot think of the name of in Destiny 1, but really hope this is a brand new map. It looks really cool because obviously the Vex network is pretty sick on its own. So I'm excited to see how that turns out. But if we get into the topics of what they're actually talking about, like I said, it's where it can be a little iffy. So they basically start off talking about everything that they've added to PvP in the last couple seasons, which is good. Obviously, they put a bunch of hard work into things like competitive division. Sure, that's not everyone's cup of tea, but some people, obviously like to play that, try to get that emblem. But we get on to the next part where they kind of are just listening to everyone's feedback. And the main thing they specifically say is they're talking about new maps. Like, everyone wants new maps. But then they say, to set expectations, our studio structure is built to support a more overarching updates to PvP like the ones above, rather than focusing exclusively on maps. So that sentence right there already makes a lot of people upset. I'm sure a lot of people like if they take the other changes they've made and just implement them into new maps instead. But obviously they need to make the game feel good and have game modes and stuff. But more maps, in my opinion, would make the game a lot more fun to play. That's why everyone's going to be excited for the new map when it comes out, because it's just something fresh and new. It's like with PvE content, you always get these new destinations, new raids, just anything, and that's what makes the game fun. Like, it's just something new, and PvP has been lacking that for a while, so that kind of sucks to see. But if we keep on reading, they basically say, when we do focus our resources on building new Crucible maps, it comes to a trade-off of multiple teams' bandwidth on work that contributes to a variety of experiences that players also hold dear, such a new story, exotic mission content, or core activities that make up the foundation of each season or new destination. So basically right here, they're just saying, if they dedicate their time to making a PvP map, pretty much every other part of the game is just not going to be as good, which sucks to see. That is really, really bad to read. I'm assuming that part of the PvE team, or how, I don't know how it's structured, it's going to obviously have to help out with these maps, which is obviously not a great thing to hear. And it's pretty much just confirms that we're pretty much going to be getting 1 to 2 new maps a season, if I had to guess, which again does suck. I really wish they could invest more money into having other extra people just make more PvP maps, but this is where we're at. I don't think they're gonna change it. I mean, they literally said to set expectations. I think they're saying this is what you're gonna get. I mean, if you don't like it, I guess just stop playing the game, which really, really does suck. And then they also talk about the reprise maps that they're bringing back. It's also a lot of work, trying to port them to the latest version of Destiny 2. And it also will require additional resources to ensure the maps work correctly in the game modes and playstyles for the years to come, or probably also just what's currently like the meta in Destiny and stuff, because obviously Destiny 2 I feel like plays a lot different than Destiny 1. But yeah, so I don't know, man. Like, this is very disheartening to read, especially if you are a PvP player. For me, mainly playing PvE, it doesn't affect me too much, but I definitely, hear it from the PvP players. Like, I just imagine if you're a PvE player and say, like, we're not getting like a new strike with a DLC or even a new raid. Obviously, a raid might be a little bit of a stretch, but a new strike or a new seasonal activity or something like that. It's just, because they can't make it because they don't have enough people on board, and it would take away from other parts of the game. So this is definitely an overall negative. I really, really wish something would be changed about this, but this is just the current state of PvP. But now for some positives. Again, like I said, we are receiving a new map, which is cool, and some new game modes, which do seem pretty cool. You have Checkmate, which is going to be a more like competitive thing. Your ability regen is reduced, more focus on gunplay. I know a lot of people have been asking for that. This could be pretty fun. And then the relic game mode is going to be basically can just use the relics in the game to kill people in Crucible. So I guess it's kind of going to be like the Scorch game mode, but with relics. And there's probably going to be a little twist. I think it talks about having to get kills and bank your kills to get a relic. So that could be fun. It's a fun part of game mode. Obviously no one's going to take this super serious, but Checkmate could become a serious game mode. And these are looking positive to me, in my opinion. And obviously with the new map, but with everything else, I don't know, man. It just kind of is a killing blow to me for PvP. But I'm moving on down. We do have matchmaking improvements, and they're basically just modifying their loose skill-based matchmaking and adding fire team matchmaking to some Crucible activities. Obviously, this is going to be mixed opinions about if you think skill-based matchmaking is good or bad, or if you want to just pub stomp people with a stack of 6 while you're versing a bunch of solo players. Overall, this is kind of up to debate for everyone. But the main stuff, we go down a little bit more. Coming to Season 23, there's going to be a new Haka Aggressive Range Trained Pulse Rifle for the new competitive mode. So that's pretty cool. They're trying to add another Iron Banner game mode, which again is pretty cool. I know a lot of them have been received well, which in all honesty, I personally have enjoyed a lot of the Iron Banner game modes. Like, they're not like super competitive other than Rift, and I actually really liked Rift, where a lot of the community did not like Rift. I thought Rift was very fun. People just like playing the normal control, and that's totally fine as well. But hopefully this will be a cool game mode that everyone will be able to enjoy. And then they're also talking about reprising the Citadel map from the Dreaming City that was taken out the game when the content vault happened. But we'll get that back. It wasn't like the most fan favorite map, but I do have some pretty cool memories on it, I guess. So cool, that's coming back. But yeah, now we move on to Vanguard. So essentially, they're going to be adding medals to Vanguard strikes now. It's going to be very similar to the Guardian Games ones, so it's kind of like strike scoring in a way. You know, it's cool to see these pop up. It'll probably make it a little bit more engaging to play if you're trying to get a high score, and you will actually earn a little bit more reputation with the more medals you get. So overall, this could be a pretty cool thing. They also say they don't want to compromise your build to try to get the highest score, so that's also pretty cool. So I think overall, this is just making Vanguard strikes a little bit more fun to play, just seeing stuff pop up all the time. And if you do well, you get a little reputation bonus, so you can earn some more of those Ingrams you could focus now. So that's pretty cool in my opinion. Again, I don't think this is going to drastically change people's enjoyment of doing the Vanguard strike playlist, but it is a thing. And they also are talking about adding some more battlegrounds to it alongside strike, so there'll be a little bit more playability, I guess, with just different things popping up. So that's pretty cool. But again, this is just kind of just like a small overall improvement, kind of like a quality of life thing. Like, we kind of already have the battlegrounds, but they're just kind of getting added to the strike playlist now. So I don't know, this is pretty cool in my opinion. I don't think there's anything inherently bad with this. It's just like nothing like mind-blowing or anything that they're changing it with. But now if we move on to Gambit, they basically have talked about that they have done a lot with Gambit, and they are pretty much just pulling the plug on it. They're just done now. So they even say that, as many of us noticed, they've just been quiet on Gambit, and obviously alongside the Witch Queen, that revamp happened where they changed Gambit completely, its core activity fundamentals, primeval tuning, invasions, ammo economy, and rewards. And then unfortunately these updates didn't move the needle for player engagement. So again, it just really didn't get that popular, and people still just don't like playing Gambit. And once again, it does say with the Gambit fans out there mostly are looking for newer returning maps, and then obviously in that area of the game with lower engagement, that would take away resources from other parts of the game. So another part of this is just talking about how if they focus on Gambit, it's just going to go away from other parts of the game, which again is probably the PvE side of the game, because that's what gets played the most. Same thing for PvP. Obviously, I don't think the PvP scene as low as it is Gambit, but they're in the same boat, which really does suck to see. And then on the next sentence, while we don't have plans to dedicate more resources to significantly transform Gambit, we do have a few updates planned for the year of the final shape. So we are going to be receiving some smaller updates. One of these is going to be the returning map from the Dream City, which is cool. And they are also talking about adding the Shadow Legion and Lucent Hive enemy types to Gambit, which I guess is pretty cool. But, you know, overall, there not going to be any major changes. And I think they've just kind of said, you know, Gambit is what it is. You can play it if you want to, but they're really not going to put that much effort into it since no one really plays it. And they even go on to say that they're making Gambit, you know, optional to maximize your rewards, like earlier where you could just play all strikes now to get all the rewards, or all Crucible. You don't even have to play Gambit anymore. And they're also going to reduce the number of Gambit specific challenges from the seasonal challenges to earn Bright Dust and stuff like that, or XP, because no one really cares about playing Gambit that much, which does suck to see. I really wish they would try to make it a better game mode, which I guess they did with the Witch Queen, and it still just isn't up to par. But yeah, you know, Gambit's pretty much done. I mean, for someone that doesn't play Gambit a lot, obviously I don't really care about this too much, but it does suck to see people that do enjoy it, and also just the overall philosophy of the game where they kind of just say, hey, we're just not gonna put resources in this and focus on something else, which I can kind of understand. But at the same time, it's like, why would you just not want to make that better if you're trying to sell a product, instead of just giving up on something, try to make it a little bit better? I'm not exactly sure, but you know, this is what it is. I mean, you know, if you don't like playing Gambit, I'm sure this is a net positive, but it does suck to see on the overall scale of things. Now we move on to armor set rewards, and this is kind of the same thing. So they basically talking about how they were going to add new armor sets, pretty sure every single year to Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit. And they basically say that, hey, again, no one really runs these, no one really, you know, wants to get these, so they're just kind of stopped doing it. Again, kind of like the Gambit thing, in my opinion, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to continue to do this and try to make the armor sets better for people to actually get them, you know, even if it's just for transmog. But now we're just in the same place as Gambit, where, like I said, they're just kind of like saying, yep, cutting the ties, that not doing it, gonna dedicate our resources to something else, which again, I kind of understand, but at the same time, I just don't know why you wouldn't want to improve your game as a whole instead of just giving up on something. You know, obviously the armor team does a great job. There are so many cool armor sets, and you know, the Vanguard, Crucible, Gambit ones, I'm sure a lot of people obviously just don't care about. I mean, I personally don't care about them. There are probably a couple cool pieces out there, like the Titan chest piece from like way back in base Destiny 2, but overall, like, no one really cares about these things. You know, it would be cool if they could make a bunch of cooler armor sets instead of just giving up on it, but you know, it is what it is. And if this makes other stuff better, you know, sure, I'll take it. But I just wish that philosophy was a little different. But they are going to be making a new Trials armor set, which obviously is up to you if you think it looks cool. I think it looks all right. This is going to be the Titan armor set. We'll see what the other ones look like in the full set. So, I mean, it definitely has some fur themed going on, and I definitely know a lot of people like that. But all right, moving on down, we have game security, and I'm going to be honest, I'm probably just going to skip over this. Obviously, game security is very important, but this isn't the main thing that everyone's caring about, let's be honest. But, you know, making the game more secure, more stable, all this is really good because stability was a very huge part of what made this season currently in the game awful, because pretty much every single week the game was just down. You just couldn't play it for a majority of the time. So hopefully with this, they're going to do some internal testing. They talk about doing some chaos testing for the current season coming up, and then they're going to implement some other stuff in season 23. So hopefully the servers will be a lot more stable, especially when Final Shape comes out, because Final Shape comes out and it is experiencing the same issues that was with this season. That is going to be very bad. So hopefully overall, game security and serviceability is going to be a lot better. All right, so moving on down to some fun stuff. Let's talk about seasonal structure. They basically talk about they're aware of people wanting new things to do. Specifically with this sentence right here, we know our players are looking for more variety and repeatable season activities. And more than anything, we want to constantly surprise everyone with what comes next in each season. So although we'll talk a bit more about this below, and you'll see it in our showcase, we're giving ourselves more freedom to stretch narratively and in-game systems through seasons 22 and 23. We'll hope you enjoyed coming on those rides with us later this month. So this to me pretty much confirms that the seasonal structure might be changed a little bit next season, season 23 as well. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, we'll find out more in the reveal. So really excited for that. That gets me a lot more excitement for season 22 now, not just narratively wise. Like, I'm actually excited to see everything that's going to happen. But then we also have a preview of what's to come. So all of these are mainly just going to be quality of life upgrades. And these are pretty cool. This is going to be another highlight of this state of the game. So we're going to be able to favorite shaders. This is going to be really cool. So you don't have to just go all the way through the shader list. If there's a shader you like, that's going to be really, really sick. You also, if you don't have all the stasis aspect and fragments, you can go to Elsie and just buy them like you can go to Ikora. So that's also really cool. Transmat effects will become unlockables now. That's also really cool. So you can clear your inventory up. I pretty much only have that part of my inventory filled with transmat effects anyway, so that's going to be pretty much empty now, in my opinion, and kind of pointless. But the Wish Ender is going to get an actual quest now instead of having to have all those charged discs in your inventory, so that's kind of cool if you don't have Wish Ender. Resource tabs are going to be actually really cool in my opinion. So this is just going to talk about what each resource does, since there are so many resources in the game. I know a lot of new players, that's their biggest complaint, is that there's just so much stuff to learn about the game. So you kind of just come here and they have everything listed out. They have exactly where to get it and what it does. So that's pretty cool. I think this is going to be a nice change for new players. Now they're also going to be changing the Iron Banner up a little bit, since the draw of getting Pinnacle is not as important anymore if you're already max cap. So they're going to be splitting those into two, so you can earn more reputation with some of the challenges, which is cool if you're trying to obviously farm Iron Banner weapons. And then ritual rank ups will now just immediately pop up. So this is pretty cool. This is, I guess, just all nice quality of life improvements. Nothing crazy that's getting changed. I think the thing people are going to like the most is definitely the shader, where you can favorite some. But, all these are really cool. This is good for new players. The shader thing's really cool for everyone. I think all of that's going to be pretty sick. But Sandbox Updates, we have new strain aspects. They don't talk about anything but the names of them. We have Whirling Maelstrom, a Banner of War, which sounds really cool, and then Weave Walk. So not sure what any of these are going to be. They do say they will talk about them more once they get closer to the launch of the season. So probably in the TWID or TWAB a week before the actual season comes out. So, I'm excited to see these. Obviously, new strand aspects can completely change the builds up. So excited to start making some of those. But we have exotic armor reworks also coming. So just like we got with Season of the Deep, they reworked a ton of exotics. We're now also going to be receiving that again with the brand new season as well in Season 22. So again, really, really cool. I mean, they completely changed some exotics, and some are actually very meta now, like Vesper or Radius. So hopefully we'll see some other exotics become meta as well, kind of just like that one. And then new weapon subfamilies incoming. So looking further into the future, they will be introducing some entirely new weapon subfamilies in the final shape. So that could be really cool. It does say tune into the showcase again on August 22nd, and we can see our first look at some of these in action. I imagine this is going to be a great way to actually get people to want to farm some weapons in final shapes, because if they just keep adding some, other weapons that are currently in the game, if they add another arc waveframe grenade launcher, no one's going to want to farm it because you can just use forbearance. So I think this would be a pretty cool way to actually get people to want to get some new weapons if some of these subfamilies are pretty good. And now a weapon tuning preview. So they're going to be tuning some weapons next season. They do say they have a small list of exotics that are going to be tuned and all special weapons, but they do want the intention to keep them near where they're at in the current game, as opposed to just ridiculously buffing some of them. So I'm sure that won't change too much, but they are going to talk about this on an upcoming weapon article, which is nice. But in addition to this, they also talk about that we are going to see that hand cannon buff, so increased reload speeds, and we're going to have that damage buff against minor and major enemies. So probably that 20% to minor, 75% to majors. That's going to be really good. Hand cannons are probably going to be the meta now for PvE. Depending on some things, we'll have to wait and see. But really excited for the hand cannon changes. That's going to be really, really good. They also say that sword full power heavy attacks will be usable with any non-zero amount of sword energy. So really interested to see how that's going to be. Maybe swords will become meta, and then sword guards also going to be buffed in several ways. Swords are kind of just in the middle ground in my opinion. They're still like okay, but they're not the best thing in the game. And then Touch of Malice is also getting some tweaks that they think players will enjoy, and also perks such as Bipod, Envious Assassin, Under Over will become more useful in season 22. See, the crazy thing about this in my opinion is that obviously Bipod, Under Over kind of bad, but Envious Assassin to me is a pretty good perk, especially on some weapons. You know, specifically rockets. So if they somehow buff that, is that kind of also buff rockets with Envious Assassin? So we'll just have to wait and see. I definitely don't think Envious Assassin is a bad perk by any means, but Bipod and Under Over getting buffed is a good thing. And now reinforcing our goals for the year. So right here, they're basically going to recap everything they talked about and what they wanted to do. And the first thing they talk about is expand players' imaginations. So in Lightfall and Season of the Defiance, they completely changed build crafting. With Season of the Deep, they basically removed the typical vendor upgrade and put the challenges into deep dive activities and pressure trials, and that's pretty cool. And then they also say there's still room for them to revise and improve, which is also good because I still don't think some people prefer just having the kind of upgrade blocks just somewhere else and not just in the vendor. But you know, we'll kind of just have to wait and see what they do about that. But they did say the community response has reinforced that they are on the right track for norm breaking efforts like these, and they will be rolling out some very new and different in season 23. So this is what's really cool. This is what they kind of talk about right here. Like, they don't obviously go in detail, but they basically say now, without spoiling anything ahead of the showcase, our next season will be hitting into creative territories we've never explored before. We're changing some things up in a big way, including the seasonal progression paradigm with an all new mechanic. All will be revealed on August 22nd. So right here, they're basically just saying, hey, that was one of our goals, to change some stuff up. And I think they have changed stuff up. Some for the good, some for the not good, but they do seem to be on the right track, at least for trying to throw new things out there. And hopefully with August 22nd or the new season coming out, you know, whatever they decide to change, I hope it is really impactful and a lot of players do enjoy it. You know, because just having something a little different from what we just came to expect, I think is going to be a great thing for the game, and I'm excited to see what they go with this. But now moving on down, they get into the part about story, and they basically are talking about that they want the season stories of season 20 to 23 before the final shape to be very impactful. That's kind of why they decided to drop the major lore impacts in the cutscene and Season of the Deep, because they want it to be a continued story. But they do acknowledge that they know that some would have preferred for that stuff just to be in Lightfall, so it's cool they did acknowledge that. But then they do say with those players in mind, they believe that the totality of this year's narratives will set the stage for final shape in ways that a single story beat never could. So they're basically saying, hey, we know that you kind of wanted that, but it's going to work better this way. So, you know, fingers crossed, you know, it goes out the way Bungie's thinking it, because obviously that witness cutscene in the Season of the Deep is a really, really weird placement. The Neomuna stuff, you know, I guess is cool, but obviously they want to continue the story, and if they're trying to build up to this major thing in the final shape, I think it would be pretty cool. And they also say, to put our concerns to rest right now, the final shape and its array will provide a climactic conclusion to the Light and Darkness saga before looking ahead to what's come next in Destiny 2. So, I mean, that right there, after the final shape, the Light and Darkness is done. So, I don't know if this confirms that we're going to kill the Witness in the raid, because obviously the Witness is like the biggest bad thing. I think if we kill the Witness in the campaign, like, who are we going to fight in the raid? Like, I'm not exactly sure. You know, I'm sure Bungie has something up their sleeve that we don't know about, but like, once the raid's over, the Light and Darkness saga's done. Like, I don't know if there's going to be a cutscene after the raid, kind of portraying what's coming to Destiny. Like, I don't know. Obviously, we'll probably find out more on the 22nd, but this does have me excited, this sentence alone, just for the actual story of the game. But obviously, the story of the game is not the only important part of the game. And, you know, the other parts of the game we've kind of already went over. Another part that I've seen a lot of people be upset about is bringing a challenger back to Destiny. So essentially, they're basically talking about that they're a little uneven on this, but they are more so okay with where the current state of the game is. They think it is challenging, where a lot of people think it's very easy. As someone who plays this game nearly every day, obviously it's going to be a little bit easier for me just from short playtime. But from newer players, I'm not exactly sure. You know, you have things in the game like Forbearance, which can pretty much kill an entire room of enemies with one shot and also heal you. And it's very, very strong. And you don't really have to worry about anything. Some builds are just absurdly overpowered and just trivialize literally everything in the game, even in things like GMs. I mean, even with the most recent day one raid in Root of Nightmares, obviously Root of Nightmares isn't the hardest raid to do, but I think a lot of that was made easy just because of how strong we are. Like some of these artifact perks we get are extremely strong. Some of our builds just in general, now that they've just completely changed the mod system, is super easy to build into. They are super strong. Again, you have weapons like Forbearance, just insert any other weapon like Commemoration. It's just like literally one of the best machine guns in the game. We're just very, very powerful. It makes the game pretty easy to play once you've played a lot and gotten stuff. And I also kind of understand that's kind of the point of a looter shooter game. You want to get powerful, but it does suck to see, you know, when you're doing these GM stuff, you can just run at enemies and place your rift down and nothing will shoot you because you've just built into something so strong. And again, that is kind of a power fantasy, but at the same time, we are ridiculously strong and it does make the game pretty easy. But for some other stuff, they did confirm that they're not raising the power cap season 22. They overall think that was a good change, so you don't have to worry about actually, you know, getting pinnacles again. So that's pretty cool. I was kind of whatever with this change in Season of the Deep. Like obviously grinding pinnacles made me want to play the game a little bit more, but you know, regardless, I could just play the other stuff faster and then, you know, go on to play some other games if I want to. But hopefully with this new seasonal model that they're going to be doing next season, it'll make me want to keep replaying the activity regardless of trying to get pinnacles. And then they also talked about some GMs they added to make it a little bit harder. But overall, like, you know, this is such a mixed subject because I would imagine if you are a new player to the game, learning everything, the game is going to be a little bit challenging just from the sheer amount of stuff you have to learn and understand. But also at the same time, like if you've played this game for a while, like you kind of know how strong we are. You know how a lot of stuff is easy. Like GMs are just really not that challenging anymore, and I don't really know the best way going about fixing this because a lot of Destiny now is relied on builds and ability spam, whereas more Destiny 1 was relied on gunplay in my opinion. And I know a lot of people would love to go back to just doing gunplay instead of having these crazy builds that let you spam abilities all the time or your supers all the time, just debuffing everything. Like, I don't know, because I think it is a fun game. Like I love just obliterating stuff in Destiny, but at the same time in harder content I would like it to be a little harder and just make it feel a little bit more rewarding, whereas now you can kind of just chill out. I mean, I literally farmed the end of the season just with randoms, just listening to music, not even fully paying attention to the game. Like I just kind of just doing in the background performance in its shards to get ready for next season. It really isn't that difficult if you played the game for a while, in my opinion at least. But I would love to hear your opinion if you are just more of a newer player, you don't play the game all the time. Just this is obviously a touchy subject for a lot of people, and I still would like there to be a fantasy of obviously, you know, learning your build, upgrading your gear. You should feel more powerful, but you shouldn't just not have to pay attention to the game, in my opinion. So, you know, again, touchy subject, but I would like to hear everyone's opinion on this. So moving on down, they're talking about reaching their content, and they're basically just, you know, like wanting to provide cooler content. Obviously, the exotic missions they've added, which have been, you know, really cool. They got received pretty well. The Excalibur and even the Wicked Implement. Obviously, those weapons aren't like the most powerful things in the game, but the missions and the way we received them actually were pretty cool, and I hope they do continue that. And then season 22, they are going to be adding their exotic playlist rotator, so that's going to be cool if you don't have the other exotics, or if you just want to play them. They are also going to be adding a craftable Dead Man's Tale, which is cool. You know, it doesn't reign supreme like it used to in PvP, but I imagine it'll still be pretty good since you can just craft the god roll now. But then we move on down, they basically just recap PvP saying that, hey, we're adding those new game modes, the new map, you know, pretty cool, a new emblem for the Ascended division. But then they get on down here and talk about Pathfinder. So this is a new thing they're going to be adding, and they basically say that they called out back in February that they were initially targeting more changes to the ritual content in the final season of the year, so for season 23. So they say we made the decision to push this back to the final shape, so now we won't be receiving this until final shape, but they have plans to replace some bounties with a more rewarding and engaging system, tentatively called the Pathfinder. This is going to be debuted on the new destination in the final shape, and we are currently nailing down a plan for how we can use this new system to replace core ritual bounties in the new year. For now, here is a work in progress preview of the Pathfinder UI. So it seems like they're gonna just kind of try to, I guess, replace bounties. I don't exactly know, but you know, it seems like maybe we start up here and then we can go down, because obviously there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we get to an Ingram. Not exactly sure how this is going to work, but it does seem like you can kind of connect, and I imagine you probably get some rewards as you go down, and the last thing is going to be the major thing, which seems to be a purple Ingram. I don't know if that's going to be a super major award depending on how easy these are to complete, but this does look cool. Obviously, just seeing new UI and new things Destiny, it's always promising, so I'm excited to see where this goes. And if it just takes away, I guess, for doing some boring bounties, this could be pretty cool. And then they also, for number 4, wanted to talk about connecting our Guardians to make it easier to play. You know, that's really cool, because obviously having more people to play with is awesome. They do say in season 23 they are going to be adding the LFG system, so you know, you can look forward to that, you know, right before the brand new rate comes out. You know, hopefully, you know, a lot more people can compete in day 1 now because of that. And then they also say in the final shape that they're making big changes to the progression system that will help connect even more players and remove barriers, keeping friends from taking on the same content together. We'll have more info on that in the showcase. So again, more stuff in the showcase. The only thing I can imagine with this sentence is that they're just gonna kind of make everyone's playing field even. They basically just scale whatever you're fighting to whatever power level your teammate is or whatever. I'm not exactly sure what they're gonna do with this. Obviously, we'll find out more in the showcase, but that could be pretty cool, because obviously playing with friends is a lot more fun than not playing with friends. And with the LFG system, I probably need to implement something like that, because you probably will have people that aren't as high as light level as some other people trying to do those. And then in the final point of this, the features listed above combined with everything we're about to show on August 22nd, everything yet to come, will create the best gameplay experience for the wildest possible audience that Destiny 2 has ever seen. The final shape is incredibly special to us as the accumulation of Destiny's first decade, and we're committed to making it just as special for all players worldwide as the showdown with the Witness approaches. And then they basically just thank us for reading it, and today is just a piece of what's in store. And then if we don't run into the tower, we'll hope to see you in the chat on the 22nd showcase. So that is the state of the game. Obviously, I've kind of given my opinions as I went down on everything, you know, with the major stuff being up here at the top, with them basically just coming out saying like, hey, we just don't have enough resources essentially to dedicate time to making new PvP maps or worry about Gambit since no one plays it, or even new armor sets. We just like to focus more on stuff that people like to do. You know, we are going to be receiving a new Crucible map. They are bringing a Gambit map back. We are receiving a new Trials armor set, but overall, like, stuff that just seems to have a lower player base. They just seem to not want to dedicate as much resources to that, whereas Gambit seems they don't want to dedicate any resources anymore at this point. But Crucible, very minimal resources, and then it seems like, again, PvE is kind of just what is going to be getting them, because that's kind of what makes the game go and makes them money essentially. But obviously there is still a strong PvP community out there, because I mean, there wouldn't be as much complaints of PvP if it wasn't. So you know, they're still trying to add a little stuff. You know, obviously all the quality of life improvements, stability updates, game security, you know, shader, like all this stuff's really cool. Like, there's nothing super major about this. And then they also announced this new strain aspects coming. We kind of already knew that was coming as well. The big surprise, I guess, is the fact that more exotic armor is getting reworked. We didn't really hear anything about that, to my knowledge at least. So, you know, again, that's really cool. And also new weapon sub families, that's also really, really cool. Those are kind of like the two standouts to me that, like, oh, this really cool stuff's coming. You know, weapon tuning, obviously good. Hand cannons, hopefully, are going to be really fun. And then reinforcing, like, a lot of this is up to debate and people's opinions. Like, talking about story, you know, hopefully the new Cecil thing is going to be cool. But, you know, specifically with the player challenge, that's the biggest one up for debate. And then, you know, enriching our content again. I mean, if you didn't like these missions, I don't know if they really enriched it for you. I mean, I like the missions. The Pathfinder is another new thing that seems pretty cool. I'm not like super ecstatic about it, but, you know, again, it's always cool to see something new because we don't really know much about it. But they said they'll talk about it more on the 22nd. And then connecting our Guardians again. You know, that's always a good thing in my opinion. Just making it easier for everyone to play together. And that's pretty much it. Like, they didn't really talk about like a whole bunch of new stuff, but they kind of just gave their insights on what is currently going on. Some good, some not that good, but at the same time, this just seems like a little check-in, I guess, to get you excited for the 22nd. And I think the 22nd is when they're going to reveal a lot of stuff, and I think the 22nd is what's going to get a lot of people excited, because again, they talk about, hey, this is going to be shown on the 22nd. This is going to be shown on the 22nd. This is going to be shown on the 22nd. I hope we see you on the 22nd. You know, the new season's going to be changed on the 27th. There's going to be a new, you know, ritual thing. Like, there's a bunch of new stuff coming on the 22nd. And this just seems like a little way to get us excited for it and just give a little background of what's happening. But at the same time, some of this stuff I feel like might have hurt the community a little bit, because yeah, some of these changes are just stuff they talked about, and specifically the ritual part and then the challenge part of the game. I'm not so sure about those, but everything else, quality of life, seems cool. I'm excited for the 22nd. This definitely did get me excited, and also the next season in general and the final shape, but we'll just have to wait and see how everything checks out. But I'd love to know your opinions on this article down below. Okay, well, I think that's going to do it all for me. I've literally been recording this for 1 hour. I kind of wanted to just spill my opinions. I guess pour my heart out on this. Again, I absolutely love this game. I really don't like seeing the community where it's at right now, but it's, you know, for some things like we talked about in this video, totally understandable. I'm not even sure how long this video is going to be, because obviously I have to chop it up a little bit, but I really hope you all enjoyed. I really hope I brought a little bit more positivity to the state of the game, more so than just trashing on it completely, because there is some positive stuff in here in my opinion, but definitely there's some negatives that need to be talked about. And again, I kind of want to just get my opinion out there on everything. I am extremely excited for the 22nd. I'm excited to start making a lot more content for you all. I think it's been like 11 days, I'm pretty sure, since I've uploaded a video, but I've also been extremely busy. I hope I can get back on track a little bit more. I should have some builds coming out leading up to the new season, I guess, just as a roundup without involving seasonal mods. So if you'd like to see that and you enjoyed this video, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff. It really does help me out, and I truly appreciate it, and I really hope to see you all in the next one. Anyways though, thank you all so much for watching this one, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.